to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. I'm so happy to introduce you to Jessica Duce, the principal of J Duce Design in Colorado. Jessica has a little by accident, a little by good fortune, and a lot by being smart and a hard worker, discovered her ideal client. Her firm specializes in VRBO and Airbnb design. Jess has a fun story to tell how that came about, which I'll let her share with you in just a moment. Let me remind you about our show sponsor, My Doma Studio. I happen to know that Jessica is a My Doma Studio designer, and that one of the features that comes in very handy is the partnership with our other show sponsor, Cravat. My Doma Studio designers are now able to source curated Cravat products right from within the My Doma online studio. It's very easy to search, sort, and add curated Cravat products right into your ongoing projects, all from one screen. And I'm just going to say, the other feature about this is that My Doma has is they have a favorites feature, which allows you to save your favorite curated Cravat products in one place within the My Doma studio so that you can access it anytime in the future. So, in other words, you create your own little catalog of go-to items, right? And if you heard Monique Holmes on Power Talk Friday recently, she specifically said to us that in order to resource like a pro, what you have to do is collect ahead of time your go-to products and vendors whose quality and price point you like and know so that you can access them quickly when you're in a project. And this, by the way, is exactly what you can do now with My Doma Studio and Curated Cravat. You can keep a product catalog of your favorites, which increases your efficiency when you are resourcing. Just saying. All righty? So now, back to Jessica. Listen in as Jessica describes how she jumped in with both feet when a new opportunity came her way. And I'm just going to comment here, side comment. Jess tends to make it sound like it was a pretty easy thing to do, but I know that it wasn't. And think about it. When you hear her tell the story, think about the moment that she had. There was a split second where she made a decision to say one thing or another. It's very telling, and the point is, listen to your gut. That's the lesson here. So listen for it when she tells the story, all right? Now, a little more about Jess and her firm. They have been featured in Parker Lifestyle Magazine, Highlands Ranch Lifestyle Magazine, and Omaha Family Magazine. Jessica was honored as Volunteer of the Year for her work for Habitat for Humanity. And drumroll, please, J Duce Design is yet another designer who heard about Savvy Giving by Design and has launched their very own chapter in Denver of Savvy Giving by Design, which we know by now, if you are a loyal listener of the show, is the brainchild and the passion project of Susan Wintersteen of Savvy Design. The goal of Susan's nonprofit is to help families in crisis improve their current living environment for health and well-being at no charge to them. So huge congratulations to Jessica and to you too, Susan. You too. How you like that for English, guys? You too, Susan. Alrighty. Let's meet Jessica Duce and learn about the challenges and the fun in designing for VRBO properties. Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So, Jess, I'm just going to share with people. You and I have talked once before because you sent me an email telling me about a development that happened in your business. You've been in business 10 years. This happened about 3 years ago. And I thought that it was such not only a fun story, I thought that it was very interesting how the only thing I can say is a little bit that I know of you, 1.5 hour conversation, another 20 minutes today, right? I feel like it has energized your company, and I may be overstepping, but that's the vibe that you're giving out about this new endeavor that has really made itself available and to you. And what I love is you took action on it. So first of all, before you tell us the story, would you agree that it has energized you as an interior designer and your firm?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a completely new path, exciting, had to learn, hadn't done it before. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it starts because a previous client of yours referred you to, I guess, an acquaintance or a friend of theirs, right?
Correct.
And the referral was an out-of-state referral. So you're in Colorado and this was in Oregon.
Well, actually, the client is in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
I live in the Denver area in Colorado, and the property is in Oregon on the beach.
So now actually because one of the things I was wondering is, why did a client in Oregon reach out to their friend in Denver and ask for a designer? Okay, so that makes sense. So now tell us the story.
So the former client referred me to her friend and suggested me because they had purchased a home to be a vacation rental. That's its specific goal. And they hated the flooring and they didn't know what to do. It's 10,000 square feet, so the flooring's a big decision. And they referred me, and the prospective client called me and said, how do you feel about flying out to Oregon and looking at this flooring and giving us a decision? That's all they wanted. And so I said, sure, why not?
Sign me up.
So I was on a plane a week later, and both owners flew out, and we all met there. And it was kind of my heart's beating out of my chest because they wanted a decision on the spot. And it was an unusual flooring choice because the home is literally on a private beach area in Oregon. It's a huge home, and they have a slate floor, which is not what you think about at the ocean. And salt and slate are not friends.
Right.
But there was so much going on in the house, and I was so distracted by everything else. And they had just purchased the home, and it had been a VRBO before, but not quite as successful as the previous owners had wanted. So as I'm walking around, and they said, okay, what do you think? We're thinking LVP, we're thinking wood. They're throwing all these things. And I finally just went with my gut, and I said, to be honest, I don't think the flooring is your biggest problem. I think it's all of your decor and your furnishings. I wouldn't want to stay here. And
tell us what you really think, Jess.
I know my heart was beating out of my chest. I hopefully said it a little more eloquent, but that was pretty much it. And then there was a little moment of silence, and I waited to be fired on the spot and escorted out. And it was a good run. But one of the owners just looked at me and said, okay, you're hired. What would you do?
Wow.
Right then. Boom.
Wow. So the thing is, though, so I'm clear on the story, and this does not take away any of the actual challenge of in the moment of being that honest with somebody, right? But it wasn't their decor. They hadn't designed the home. They bought it and inherited the decor, or it was their decor.
No, when you purchase these homes, it comes furnished as is.
Exactly.
So
right.
You're right. They had not made the selections.
Right. But it's still a tough thing because they might have purchased it thinking, rock star, we love everything. We just need, like they said they just needed a new floor. So it was a risky move on your part. But it does go to, honesty is the best policy, right?
It had a happy ending, but it was terrifying because you never want to offend anybody, but I felt in my gut that was where they should spend the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And so did you end up doing the floors too? Or the floors, even though the slate you said is not great with the salt, that really wasn't the problem and that they could withstand it? How did that go?
So we ended up doing a long-term plan, and I did all of the interiors, and we did remodeling. It went on, but we have all new flooring being done next year, 2019. So These relationships are ongoing, and these VRBOs take, they have a lot of wear and tear. So you end up having a long-term relationship with the owners.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're talking about these. There's a couple of different things. First of all, there's 10 different things about doing a VRBO home, right? But two things you just mentioned in there is that it's a long-term process because, of course, this is a 10,000 square foot home. I don't know if we mentioned that. So there are a lot of things. It sounds like you came in and you said you did the furnishings, you did renovations, and now you've got the flooring scheduled. But also there is the layer of it's not their own home that they can just plow through the project. They probably always have to time it in the off season because they are renting in the on season for the area. And now you have to step back and not design or execute during that period, Jessica?
Yes, there's definitely scheduling challenges. The good news for the owners is that this home is consistently booked, which is great. It wasn't before. But so that's harder for maintenance. But for example, we did a full gut renovation of the guest house on this property, and we had 11 days to do it. And that was down to the studs, cabinets, counters, flooring, paint, decor, everything. That was our only window with guests.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And so does this mean have you developed – whoa, my brain just went to, I was going to say, so have you developed a team there that also is cognizant of, like, you can't just walk into any cabinet or kitchen place because, say I need it in 11 days and then go, okay, sure, you're 11 days. Like, all right, 11 days. It's like, no, actually it is 11 days. So because it's a vacation area, are there vendors local that are accustomed to working in this mode just the way you have now become accustomed to working in this mode? Or did you just have to set out and find people and really just make rock solid agreements with them that they would abide by what they said they would?
I think it was a combination. We got some referrals. We were blessed to find a team that the housekeeping company actually highly recommended. And there is kind of that element of the vacation rental flip construction deadline kind of thing. They do, but we were pushing it. So I had gracious owners that were willing to fly me out there and help me interview, make relationships. We had to sit down because we had to do so much legwork ahead of time. And I had to give up some control, obviously, so that everybody could be accommodated. And the big picture was that we would all keep doing this. And if we worked well together as a team, and now we really do, we really have that team. I mean, 3 years later, we're still going, and they can get a phone call and say, okay, you got to change out, a toilet and a sink, and you have 4 hours.
Whoa. Okay, so that becomes part of the regular maintenance issue, but separate from the actual when you're planning a renovation. That's an emergency maintenance issue, more or less, it sounds like.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't want to make it sound like we have that issue a lot, like we're not quickly changing toilets.
Right. No, but I mean, look, it's the thing about it is that some of the gaps in this are that you do that one home and it led to 5 other homes. And is that 5 other homes over these last 3 years? Is that what that information is? Or was it 5 homes that year and you've moved on way since then?
No, I just finished number 5 a month ago.
Okay. And again, because there is limited opportunity it's not like you could just plow through. Plus, these are huge homes. Okay, so let's take this to these other 4 homes are owned by other people.
So the second and third property are owned by the same owners of the first property.
Nice.
The other 2 are owned by investors. The common denominator is the property management company.
Loving that. I love that. No, I mean, and that's part of what makes it, look, there's nothing easy about this. I can hear how challenging it is to work within these constraints, but the fact that the second and third property are the same owners, you already have the working relationship, you've worked out the kinks of how many times you need to be on site and la, la, la. And then the fourth and the fifth being an investment property, you're not really dealing with somebody who's like, well, I don't like the color blue, right? They're just make my house beautiful. And okay. And so tell us about the that connection in the middle. How did that develop, and how does that play a role in all of this?
Meaning the property management connection?
Yes.
So the first owners hired me direct, and the property management company was monitoring closely because you typically because I think the times are changing with vacation rentals and Airbnbs, because before it was like, okay, all the furniture that we hate, go stick it in the rental, pick a neutral color and they will come. And that worked for a while. And now it's gotten very competitive, and you're renting your vacation rental or Airbnb by your Pinterest style pictures. That's what's going to get you the big rental. Like, for example, these 5 homes I've done, they are surrounded by vacation rentals. And so competition is thick. So this property management company was watching closely because the school of thought had been, don't invest a lot of money, just get enough to get the renters in. I come in and bring in all levels of furnishing pricings and new linens and some bold things that were done for a vacation rental, spent way more than they told them to spend. The owner doubles the rent, and everybody's concerned, and they end up booked out a year and a half. And so then they said, okay, we're going to trust you with the next one.
We're on to something here. Well, not for nothing, but doesn't it? It's funny. I just, in my mind, just made the analogy of one of the over and over again lessons of the podcast is, rather than being the least expensive, rather than selling yourself at the least amount that you could work for, raise your prices, offer more, and offer more value. Right? It's the same thing. It's so these guys that you did these first few homes for, I guess after the first one, what you said is true. They recognized that they could raise the rent and people would pay the raised rent. So once that happens, why do we want to rent for? I mean, let's just pick a silly number, because I'm sure these houses are insanity, but why rent for $20,000 a week if you can rent for $30,000 a week by making it look like a hotel? Beautiful, right?
Right. Yeah, that was the theory. And we didn't go gangbusters crazy. We just had to be clever, I guess is the word, or creative about where we spent the money to get the wow pictures and the wow feel.
Okay. And so that's where your expertise comes in. So where a particular homeowner who thinks that possibly they've got a great eye and just says, hey, let me just over design my home, quote unquote, let me just, they're not necessarily going to have the expertise to know where to invest the money and where it's silly to put expensive items or not textured items, pieces, whatever, because they're going to get damaged and ruined. There's a whole science in there, right, Jess?
Yeah, I do. I think there is. I've had to learn the hard way on a few things. Absolutely, though. And that all goes to your profitability for the rental, what we're not replacing, what we're not having housekeeping dealing with and spending more time on.
Okay. And I remember in your email that you said that you actually, for the first one, did a lot of research, and included in that research was that you met with the housekeeping staff. Tell us about the meeting with the staff. What was your goal for the meeting, and what did you learn?
I initially met with them just because, I thought, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to order all these amazing linens. I want everything white. And the housekeeping staff did not like me out of the gate. we are great friends now, but I
You
came
just
in
take
and
your
I'm like,
clickety-clack high heels back to Denver, where you came from.
yeah, who the heck are you? And so fortunately I had the owner of the housekeeping company that was, just as direct as I am, which was great. And we ended up clicking, and I spent a day with them doing the flips. And that is not my calling, but I'm glad that I did it, because, when you have 24 people having a great time in a house for a week, and then they leave and you have 4 hours to flip it for the next 24 people, there's a lot to do. And that gave me a true insight into what I needed to look at differently, even down to how efficient linens can dry and how many backups you have, and what type of coverlets you should do, and indoor, outdoor pillows. How can I make them sit on the sofa? They're really outdoor pillows, but they look like indoor pillows, so that we can, because those covers dry in like 20 minutes, and it was a lot.
And so how many people does the housekeeping staff bring in to clean a house that big in 4 hours?
4.
That's remarkable. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they get that done in 4 hours. That's remarkable.
And it's a true system. It's pretty fascinating to, watch them come in. They're amazing. But I learned right out of the gate some of the things that I was providing them in what I thought was the best look was adding to their frustration.
So, for instance, you mentioned things like the selection of the sheets and the coverlets, because some blends of materials will take longer to dry, and therefore they can't flip them over and get the beds made and unmade as quickly. What are some of the other things that you learned that were important when designing a VRBO home so that it can be turned over efficiently?
Well, we use indoor-outdoor rugs everywhere, but we look for indoor-outdoor rugs. I guess I shouldn't say that. The bedrooms have the cush rugs, but they all have some type of blend that are quick and easy to clean, because these are homes literally on the beach, tons of sand. I have backups for the backups. I'm sure some people are listening thinking, well, they just change all the sheets and bring the next, that load next time. Well, it doesn't always work that way, because these property management companies are managing 30 homes. That's a lot of laundry. They have laundry facilities at the home, but sometimes it's easier. The way they do it is to just clear all the beds, have everything running, clean the entire house. The last thing they do is put those linens back on the beds.
Right.
We learned that the first thing a guest does is come in, and I went to a conference in New York for hotels to kind of pick up on this too. But the first thing the guest does is throw their suitcase on the bed. I do that too. And we were getting wear and tear at the end of the quilts or the coverlets from the suitcases. So we introduced Revolution Performance Fabric bed scarves. And they just run along the base of the bed. They dry in 20 minutes, and we weren't replacing coverlets anymore.
That's so funny, because I just flipped to every hotel I've ever stayed in has the throw at the bottom of the bed. I didn't realize that it had a practical purpose.
That was the reason.
That's hysterical. I just thought it was a decoration, right?
Right.
Okay. So these are some of the things that you learned. Okay. What about other things? For instance, are you responsible, or is it a good service idea if a designer is considering this as a vocation as far as niching into VRBO? Are you responsible for the inventory of all of the items so for instance, what I'm thinking is, the housekeeping staff walks in and the area rug in the foyer has been completely ruined with red wine, and maybe it's not going to come out in cleaning today, and maybe there's a backup and maybe there isn't, but is there an inventory of that rug was purchased at this store, this is the SKU and this and that, so that it can be like delivered within a day or by the next time the house turns over the following week? Or is that getting down crazy pants lane and you don't do that detail?
And Luann, you and I have talked about this. We definitely have we have a few things stockpiled there. We do some drop ships for them, with like a room that has lamps that we selected, and we know that we have a good inventory, and we drop ship a quick Wayfair Duo for them because there's always breakage. But we found that it's not as cost effective for us to be on call for every single item. We have a lookbook, and they can call us and say, the sunset room in property 4 needs a rug. And we kind of have an understanding now where it's to a certain price point. It's not really worth their money or our time if it's under a certain amount for us to send it out. Does that make sense? They'll go locally and find a quick replacement.
Okay. So I guess what I thought when I asked the question was that it's almost like an inventory book that the property manager would say, oh, property for foyer rug was XYZ source. I'm placing the order for it. You've left them behind. They're not engaging you to place that order, but that would require that everything be done retail, and you probably have a mix of retail and trade, right?
I do have a mix in retail and trade, but I guess I'm not really that nice because they have a lookbook, but they don't have a source for every item in their lookbook.
Okay, so they have it's almost like having a Pinterest page for it. It's anything that sort of looks like this, you can replace it with that. If it's X amount of dollars, you guys have established how much X amount of dollars it's worth in calling you in to do whatever.
Right. And the lookbook has another source in that the housekeeping uses it when things disappear. They're able to say, okay, this room had this decor item and now it's gone. Oh. And so if they have to go after a guest for it.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I think it was it Kim Hager on her show that she was saying that her and her husband have started to do VRBOs themselves, and they own them, and she designs them. And she was having this conversation too about the elevated design garners a better quality person renting, and then also a higher price and more often rented, but that she not only was learning the lessons of the durability and so forth, but because she is owning her individual unit, and I get to the point, not maybe giving people the keys, but sort of property managing it, she has her list of things, and she's for herself knows that if something is ruined or damaged or needs to be replaced, she's kept the list of what it is, so it's easy for her to do it. Maybe
right.
That's what I'm confusing. Okay. Interesting. All right. So tell me some of the other things that go into what is different. You were a designer for 7 years before you did this. You still take your other clients on. It's not like you have abandoned your design, clients in Denver, Colorado. Tell us some of the other things that we might not think of as different and need to be considered when designing for this market. Maybe it could be with dealing with the property managers or dealing with the investment owners. Like, how does that work? Tell us something about that.
Well, one story that comes to mind right away is that, again, all these homes are not that far apart from each other, and it's tons of vacation rentals up and down the coast in this area now. It's really booming. And so one of the properties they brought to us, they purchased it. It had been neglected. And it was built in the late 70s, and it had really unusual woodwork. It was just, it's one of those houses that you walk in and you go, okay, we either tear it down or we got to be really creative. And they gave us a number and said, we want you to be as creative as you can with this number. And it wasn't the most amazing number, but we did our best. Uh-huh. And where I'm going with that is what we decided to do that was different in the area was to give it a story. And we named it the Captain Arnold House. And this was our 4th property. So fortunately, we had gotten their trust and the property management company, and they basically said, run with it. And so we created a fake Captain Arnold. We had a huge oil painting of him brought into the house and mounted, put a plaque, created a story, named the bedrooms his children's names, and he had his own room. And we carried this old sea captain story throughout the whole house so that when you walk in, you felt like you were entering this old Captain Arnold's house on the beach, because that was the only way we were going to deal with this unusual look inside of it. And it's going gangbusters.
Interesting.
And so that was kind of how we dealt with it. And
how did you come up with that?
Wine. To be honest.
You can't discount the ideas over a good glass of wine. You just cannot. That's something else.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know if that totally answers your question. I've learned so much, but you have to think outside the box, because really your job, in my mind, or at least my job on these properties is to give them the best rental product I can with my design skills. And so I had to pull a different creative outlet. And, you had a previous guest, and I just went blank, and I think she was in Tennessee, and she was talking about it's easy to make it pretty, but is this really the way you live? And that kind of falls with the vacation rental. Like, we can go in there and design the heck out of these properties, but our job is to make it rent.
Right. And the thing is, what do you find with that? So this was a particular isolated case, this Captain Reynolds or Morgan or whoever the hell he was.
Arnold.
Arnold.
Captain Arnold.
Okay, I'm Captain Morgan's now. You're talking wine and I'm going to Captain Morgan's. But Captain Arnold, that's a particular unusual case. And I think that's such a creative way to solve that dilemma. But what about the design for the other homes and making it, we've talked a little bit about making it durable and making it easier for the housekeeping team to manage the flip of cleaning it for in and out for the changeover day. But what is
okay,
the design style? How do you appeal to all? Are they beach houses, so they all get that beach design? Like, how does that work?
They are all beach homes, but then my other job is to make every single one look completely different, that they're not related. So you give it a different look. But I think if I'm answering it right, like, we spend the money on art and good sheets and impact pieces. And then, to be honest, we go with durability, leather or pleather Wayfair sofas. And basically, like, we don't spend the money on the things that they're going to constantly, the sit on, that your jeans are going to graze across it, the sand's going to get on it. I can spend more money on some great pillows and make it a cheap couch. It'll photograph beautifully. We look at everything of having a 2 to 3 life or year span, whatever I'm trying to say, for everything. But I know I'm not going to have to, the chances of the art being damaged or some of the key items that I've placed that you really can't reach, those aren't going to go missing or get hurt. So we spend a lot of money on those things.
To give it an upscale feeling.
Yeah, and it'll look good in the pictures. But you can't tell that my sofa is, a $700 sofa off of Wayfair through the pictures.
Right.
And they serve the purpose. No one has ever called them and said, I don't think this sofa is comfortable enough.
Right.
That's never happened.
Right.
They're thrilled to be there. It's amazing. We spend the money on, getting the wow pictures outside. We have weddings at all these properties.
So it's funny because I could see somebody, whether it be a homeowner or a designer, having the thought of, if we spend $700 on an inexpensive sofa, it's not going to withstand even 6 months or a year's worth of people who don't necessarily take care of the home like their own, and we almost need to spend more on a quality sofa. But what you're saying is that $700 sofa is going to last 2 years, possibly 3, and there's no expectation of it lasting longer. The conversation with the homeowner or the investor is that there's a point to this, that the upholstery is probably going to be ruined before the frame is going to be ruined, so we don't need to spend $3,000 on a great frame and then have to have all of it either reupholstered for, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's how we started out. Now, with that caveat is that the very last home I did, we're doing an experiment, and we did invest the money on the good frame, and we did invest the money on performance fabric in a couple of areas, and we're actually testing it out.
to see if it goes 5 years or 8 years as opposed
Yep.
to the 3. Well, and then also, too, there is the element of that maybe you don't necessarily want it to last 8 years because the styles change and you want to feel like you want to freshen it up and not feel like you're throwing away a $5,000 sofa in order to freshen it up.
Right, right.
And
But the only
Go ahead.
the only reason we tried this experiment of the more expensive frame and fabric is because it's in an area that we designed specifically, that we picture people just hanging out, having a chat, gazing at the ocean. We're testing the durability because it's safe to do it there. But the high activity area, right out to the beach, there's a TV, the kids are going to run through. That's still the $800 sofa.
Right. Okay. And look, you probably most vacation rental homeowners, their jackpot is when a particular family takes 2 weeks every August and they sign up for the 2 weeks for the next 10 years. So that's a goal of a lot of vacation homeowners, and therefore you do, as the person renting, it's nice to come in and say, oh, they updated this. It's a new this year. It's a new sofa. It's a new rug. We've been coming here 4 years, and it's not that same old piece of crap that's now dirty and old and yucky, right?
Yeah, very true. But one of the things that made me think of with what you just said is I was not a vacation rental traveler, and what I found out was how attached these families, like you're talking about, and they come year after year, and they have a special place. They always take a picture and show the growth of the kids or whatever. And they would leave us notes. Oh, we love this. Oh, I wish you hadn't moved a chair here because we always did this. Like, they were very vocal. And so we tried to create a photo spot in every house for them too, that we will not touch. And then we also introduced that we want the people to want to, like, people always want to kind of take something. I don't know, like feel like they have, like, they've been coming for so long, they have ownership. So we encourage the property managers to incorporate decks of cards with all the information about the house, and we did a little book and things like that. And if your worst problem is that they take those with them and remember where they stayed forever, that's great. And then it got better. Things weren't disappearing. Right.
So where did you get, this was all in your research? That's a very clever idea, to not just have a deck of cards handy and a Scrabble game handy, but to have it, with the information and custom made to the space. Where did you come up with all these ideas? Where did you learn this stuff?
Well, I went to BDNY, the boutique design for the hospitality industry. So after I did the first 2 properties, I'm like, okay, I probably really need to make sure
learn how to do this.
Because they were talking to me about the other properties, and they have 10 more in the pipeline for us to do.
Whoa.
So, well, actually 8, I should say. But anyway, either way, I'm feeling blessed. But so I went to BDNY, and that was a huge help. And it introduced me to some new ideas that I hadn't thought about, that I wanted to take these to the next level, like, having USB outlets. I mount the lights on the wall because a lot of lamps get broken.
Right.
And so where I can do it, I mount the lights to the wall, and I mount a USB outlet next to the bed underneath the light, more like a hotel. I do a floating shelf. I take the bed to the floor so that the housekeeping doesn't have to clean underneath. And the really big thing is that people would always forget something or lose a shoe or a sock under the bed. So I learned a lot from that, just incorporating those little hotel tricks.
That's clever. And the hanging shelf is so that it's easier to vacuum around, and they don't just ram the vacuum all on it, and they can get it clean. Exactly.
Right.
Very clever, little ins and outs. So what I love about this is that what I love about this, Jessica, that you've done is so many of us could have just been simply happy for the opportunity, executed that opportunity, maybe mistaken and not estimated high enough the value of recognizing that the design needed to be different at its core level than designing for a family that was building a vacation home that intended to live in it themselves every vacation season, right? There's a different thing there. Somebody could own a home on the coast of Oregon and never rent it out. And so you would still incorporate some durability and this and that and the other thing, but you're not having the outside world just bang the crap out of this house.
Right. Big difference.
Yes, big difference. So really smart on your part to not have that lost on you and to take the time not only for the first house, but for each house that you're doing. It sounds like you're just really every year adding to your information and your knowledge and the different ways that you can make it more efficient for the housekeeping staff. But also what happens is when you make it more efficient in all of these regards, then that's how you're affecting what you mentioned a little earlier, but the profitability for the owner or investor.
Right. Because that's really what it comes down to.
Right, because if you are regularly putting things in there that look beautiful but don't last, then they're spending a lot of money more often on replacing things that shouldn't have been replaced. It's one thing to plan on replacement value and replacement timelines, but it's another thing if it's happening more often out of just not paying attention to how it could be avoided, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. I have a question that's sort of weird and not really all that relevant, but I'm curious.
Oh, exciting.
So when you first did the first one, of course, you had no experience with this. And of course, the first time they bring you out, they flew you out. But now when you accepted the project and you really went back to your own office and your team and laid out what this was going to look like, I don't know, and it doesn't matter, but there had to be, and what I'm saying is what doesn't matter is the number, but there had to be a certain recognition on your part that this is going to take 5 trips out there before we get to the point where we can actually execute some of this, renovation or construction, whatever was first, not relevant. But how did you have a moment where you said, how am I going to tell these people I need 8 plane trips, round ticket, and I need my assistant with me, and I need this with me? Was that weird, or how did that happen?
It kind of happened organically. So they flew me out the first time, and I didn't get fired. I got hired, which was good. And I told them I needed to make a game plan. I was honest from the get-go. This is new territory, but I'm going to work hard. And so fortunately, they were gracious enough to say, basically, we're willing to pay for your learning curve. But we had to, not that I would abuse it, but we had to work between guest rentals. So I did a couple of trips on my own. And every time I went, I would, do some what I would call Band-Aid decorating. Okay. So some of the rooms they weren't cute. And I'm sorry if the previous owners hear this, but they needed some decor love. So in the time I'd go out there and meet with people and we'd figure out a game plan and I'd meet with them and, here's what we're going to do. And we have, 5 days to do this project, this part of the house. At the same time I'm out there, I would do some Band-Aid decorating. And when they fly me out, they put me up in the homes I'm working on. Oh. So.
Well, how can they do that if you're in between renters?
That's it. That's just it. I'm coming in between rentals. So if so they check the calendar, and if there's 3 or 4 days between guest rentals, I'm staying there.
Understood. Okay. I'm thinking like the Jersey Shore. We go Saturday to Saturday. Just keep rolling them in and rolling them out.
and they typically do that. That is typically how they do the rental. But with the Oregon coast and you have I don't know how it works, but they do have some random gaps in there.
Right. So somebody might we at the Jersey Shore, you rent for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But the other, I know, I'm now realizing I have rented VRBOs where it's 10 days or it's 4 days. You can take what you want if the homeowner is open to it. Right. Understood. So maybe there's a 10-day rental and you've got 3 days until the next week starts or something.
Right.
Okay.
So while I'm out there, I felt like I was kind of giving back toward the learning curve. So it's not like I'm giving anything for free. They're flying me out. They're paying all my travel expenses and they're paying my time. We negotiated a flat amount per day. But in the time that I'm learning and meeting with the contractors, measuring out what I can do, there are some VRBO rules that they're starting to institute for safety, and that's good. You have to keep those things in mind. But at the same time, I would do what I call these Band-Aid decoratings, and I would update a room and move things around. And I would bring things in my suitcases, little decor, throw pillows, covers, bedding, all geared toward my initial final plan. But at least we kind of felt like we were making progress. We never took photos of it being completely done till it was completely done, but we were piecemealing as we could with our gaps of time.
Okay. And so when you completed the first home, did the second home start after completion or during the progress of the first home?
The second project it's basically, they call it a guest house, and it's almost attached to the existing home, but it's 4,500 square feet. So it's so that started simultaneously, and that's the one where we had to do the entire project in 11 days.
Wow. Okay. And so what would you say that it took you to get your sea legs and get this pretty systemized between traveling, trips, scheduling, purchasing, preparing plans? Was it by the second house, the third house? Where do you feel like that happened, where you felt like, okay, as a firm, we've got this?
After the second project, because boy, you really learn your cred after an 11-day project. I mean, this is me finding a 24-hour pizza place at 2 a.m. for the crew. So you really get to know each other.
Right.
And I stayed at the property during the entire time. Right. So after that, I felt pretty good. And then they gave me the third project, and that was taking it all the way down to the studs, and we had to raise the foundation 3 inches to meet code.
Yeah, I know. The coastal properties, it makes a difference when you do. I know in Jersey, after Sandy, if you do a renovation, I don't know what the criteria is, but once you hit a certain criteria, then you have to put that house up on stilts. You can't just do your renovation and not raise the house. So whether it's 12 feet or 3 inches, it's a big job.
Right. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
And it's in a time frame, because the property management company still takes the rentals, and any day it's not rented, they're not making money. So we have a firm guest date from the beginning of the project. So you can't say, oh, well, it didn't come in.
That's insane. That's amazing. That is a tremendous amount of details to manage, in plain English, to really manage. And I guess what you do is you probably have everything delivered to the property itself or an off-site place, so that when the first day starts, they're not waiting for a sofa to be delivered. You're not waiting for a toilet to be delivered. You've got it all on hand. It's just trying to get it all installed and placed in the 11 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the learning curve at the beginning was, we'll just send them to the housekeeping company or to the construction company. No, it turned out to be a debacle. Things get broken or disappear. So we had to figure out one place to have everything delivered. And then now we've gotten efficient enough where we do consolidated delivery, and we have everything keeps coming to one storage unit, and then a freight truck shows up on that one day, unloads everything, and then we put together the house in 3 days.
It's like an HGTV TV show.
Yeah. I know. We say that. We're like, why aren't we on TV? Oh, that's right.
Right. It should be like VRBO designers.
It's pretty amazing to watch the process. It really is. This huge truck comes out, and, it's a pile of cardboard and people running everywhere. And we put up pictures of what goes in each room and the room layout, and people have zones, and we unload and place it, and then Kathy, our lead designer, and I walk around and do our little fluffing, and then the photographer comes in on day 3.
Wow. So your team isn't necessarily the one running around and placing everything. You hire boots on the ground there to do that. And what are you looking? Craigslist? I mean, what kind of skill is that? Who is that you're hiring? It's not, I mean, I know you need handyman for hanging of the art and all of that stuff, but just like you said, here's a picture of this room. The bed goes in this spot. The nightstand goes in this spot. Who's that skill? Who is that company?
Well, we are so lucky because the very first house and the housekeeping crew that I met, who we are now all friends, and the construction company, we've stayed together on every project. And so we've developed a relationship. So their team is paid, the different members of the team, now that we've done this long enough, all three of these companies, mine and those two, all work together on that day. And they have specific people they give us to help us unload the truck, and they're on our payroll that day,
Wow.
or the property management company's payroll really that day.
Right.
Because we're working for the property management company at this point.
Okay, understood. Okay. Well, I just said understood, but why? Why are we still not working for the homeowner? Why are we working for the property manager at this point? I don't get that.
Well, I guess I'm saying that wrong. The property management company is overseeing what we're doing.
Okay.
But the money is the owner's.
Right. Okay.
How about
okay.
that?
Okay. Right. Okay. Understood. Okay. Okay. So that's a little stroke of luck there. So we're not necessarily going to make an assumption that a designer listening could duplicate that a housekeeping team has the skill set and the ability, and the construction team has the interest in doing this level of work.
Yeah, they give us their boots on the ground. They share with us.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a lot of, I guess I don't want it to sound like it was pure luck, because we had to foster that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be replicated. We've developed other clients in that area now, so that when we fly in, people know our schedule and they can book time with us. But we've had to foster all of those relationships.
Right. Well, it sounds like to me, for instance, once you became friendly with the housekeeping company, you started to understand, wow, you're reliable and I can work with you, and your people could set this room up. And so what does this look like? Let's work together, right? That's what you're saying. And the construction company might be capable of doing full on construction, but do you have three guys that would be willing to move furniture and hang nails for paintings and mirrors and stuff? And so it's like you recognize that there was a synergy there, and then you figured out a way to make it a win-win for all of you. And all I meant by being more difficult to duplicate is that those individual teams were open to it, I guess, is really what I was saying.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's true. And that is some luck.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, great, amazing people. And we just want to keep working together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, you're also, you're bringing that too. So your team is also good to work with. You wouldn't keep getting hired by the management company or the additional investors and so forth if you weren't doing your thing and doing it well and doing it nicely, right? That's what it sounds like to me, that you're, yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And
I don't mean nicely design-wise. I mean nicely people-wise. You know what I'm saying?
I hope so. We take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I bring them pizza at 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. And so are there any ethical things? And ethical is such a heavy word.
A big word.
Yeah, it is. It's not the word I mean. How about just nudgy? Nudgy's a better word. Is there any nudgy things when you are flying in to work on, like you have the two projects now, you have the one set of properties that are owned by the one pair of owners, and then you have the other couple of properties that are owned by investors. So is there anything nudgy that somebody should be aware of when one set of people pays the airfare for you and or your team to come in? And how do you do that if I'm there, can I go and take floor measurements at the other place? Or am I totally overthinking this?
Well, maybe I'm too simple. I'm actually totally transparent with them. So when I have a trip out, I will notify the people, like let's say owner A wants me to come out and do a refresh. I notify the other people in the area and say, hey, this person wants me to come out. I'm going to be available X amount of days in my calendar. Do you guys want any time? Or do you have anything you want me to look at? Or because sometimes they want me to see other properties they're thinking about buying to see what we would do. Mm-hmm. And then whoever chimes in, I literally buy my airfare and do all of my expenses, and I divide it among them for however many people. Yeah. I keep it super simple, and I track my time, and I let them know. I was at your house, doing your properties on Tuesday and your properties on Wednesday.
Right.
You owe me Tuesday, you owe me Wednesday.
Okay. I love it. I mean, that was my expectation, but I didn't know if I was being too literal. But I would feel the same way, that if somebody is flying me in, if I'm going to work somewhere else, then they have to pay for half of that or part of that airfare, or they, whatever. Okay, good. And of course, everybody's happy to do that. And that's smart that you notify people so that they have the opportunity to take advantage of it. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's worked in my benefit because sometimes somebody just wants a little time. So they say, oh, well, this person is interested in something. If they want to schedule an appointment with you, would that work into your schedule? And so they've figured out a way to help divide my expenses, still get what they want, and then I get another referral.
Right, exactly. And also, too, I would imagine there are probably times when even a current client was thinking, well, I might have wanted to start that project in another 2 months, but if you're coming in, let's split the airfare and let's start the floor plan for that, or whatever it might be, the design plan for that. So it builds more business in. Very exciting, very exciting. So tell me, what would you say, somebody listening? We have talked this around. We certainly have, we've gone a little bit deep in it, but I know that there is so much there that you're making, not because you're not disclosing, but that seems easy. That's not. I can't even imagine, the pressure of it. But is there anything that you would say to somebody listening? You've done it by, bootstrapping your way up and teaching it to yourself. Somebody listening that thinks this is my jam, this would be fantastic. Hey, but just make sure this, or let me just teach you that. Anything lastly that we didn't cover that really should be, like if you were running a marathon, make sure you have good shoes. like that. We didn't talk about the shoes, Luann. You need great sneaks that fit you well.
Always look good, drink wine. I would say my biggest lesson is that I went in thinking, I got this. It's design and decor, piece of cake. And I had to kind of swallow my pride a little bit and say, I have to sacrifice my all white, beautiful coastal home vision and make it practical and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so an open mind, listen to, every property's different. We're doing a property in Avon, Colorado right now. And that's a completely different idea than the coastal home, but they still have the same needs. So just, I guess, know your audience, and your audience is your guests. And your guests are going to want to love your space, but they're going to abuse it. So what I mean by swallowing my pride is figuring out how to make it pretty and durable.
Mm. Right. Don't just push through and say, this would be beautiful and I'm going to do it anyway. Right. You have to put that aside and figure out a way to make it as beautiful as you can with the priority at durable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
everything
respectful
has
of durable.
A reason.
Yes.
There's thought behind every selection, and it's not just because it's the absolute perfect, most beautiful thing. It's also because it's, lifespan is longer than what was expected. Right.
I think it's awesome. I have to tell you my pet peeve. I wonder if you have ever encountered this. But my pet peeve when I go, because we're part of the Marriott Vacation Club, and so our level is the 2-bedroom condo, which has the sleep out sofa in the living room, right? So,
gotcha.
And then there's usually I don't know. So somehow our level is 8. It sleeps 8. That's where our level is. But you know what? My pet peeve is that 201, and I love the Marriott company. I do. But 201 I have stayed in, and it's been 25 years of staying in them. The condo that accommodates 8 people has 6 wine glasses, 6 dinner plates, 6 cereal bowls, and 6 sets of silverware, and it makes me crazy.
I don't get that.
I don't get it either. It makes me nuts. I mean, it's crazy. Or every once in a while, maybe it has the full set of 8, but we own a home that we rent out at the Jersey Shore and it sleeps 8. Well, I have 16 dinner plates, 16 cereal bowls,
Yes.
16 wine glasses. Like, do I have to clean a dish every single time somebody eats here? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm going to wipe out 3 of those wine glasses in like one day.
Exactly.
That is not going to work.
It's insane. It's insane. And that's the one thing that I have noticed consistently that, and there they are with 3 empty cabinets. It's not like you can't fit the other stuff.
No, we got it all.
Yeah.
We even pick it down to the dishes, and we have plenty. We have baskets of throws everywhere. We have books on shelves
Yes.
everywhere. I am with you. We want them to be like, I don't want to leave.
Yes. Yeah, I have a bookshelf and I have a little sign on it, take a book, leave a book. I'm not going to do inventory on the books. If you finish your beach book, leave it here, take one of these, and if you don't finish it, take it home with you. I don't care. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Take a book, leave a book.
We do that too, and we actually just started stamping in every single book the VRBO number and the name, and
That's
so glad you were
smart.
here.
That's
we want them to
smart.
remember.
Yes, that's a good idea. I love those little bits of that, the deck of cards and stuff like that, because you do sometimes forget, where were we last year? What was, if it was your first year or something like that. So very cool. Very interesting. I'm so excited for you, Jessica. I can hear your happiness in doing this. And I think that what I am recognizing is that it's not only exciting in the doing of it and I don't know, maybe you're a little like me. There's a little bit of, adrenaline just makes it even more fun. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I love it. It's so exciting.
Exactly. It's like, how are you going to do this? I don't know, but let's get going. Let's try it, right? But
It's called wing it.
That's it. So it's not only that excitement of doing it and the fun of, the flying and all that, but also that you have learned a new skill set within your interior design business. And that sounds like that's been a challenge and also something fun for you to undertake and go through. So I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. You're a good cheerleader. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And I appreciate your sharing your insights on this because there's probably somebody listening that would think, how would I get into that? And, we certainly didn't give them an exact roadmap, but I think we illuminated an idea of the possibility of it. And that's really what matters. So thanks so much for joining me, Jessica.
Loved it. Thank you, Luann.
You know what I loved most about Jessica and her story is I love that first and foremost, she followed the voice in her head. When the clients wanted new floors, she told them the floors are fine. The rest has to go, right? Think about it. I mean, she might not have said it exactly like that. But the thing is, she followed her instincts and her gut, and she was true to herself, and she told the truth to her client. Well, I mean, I actually should say her potential client. That was the risk, right? It wasn't her client. It's one thing to tell your client no. It's another to tell a potential client no. But the thing is, what happened from there? Everything happened from there, right? And if you were listening and you heard deeper than just Jess's words, if you heard her voice, if you heard her happiness, well, then a lot more happened than simply earning a new client. Yes, she did. She got that project, and then she got another, and then another. But what has been the real gift of this entire process? The real gift is her renewed energy for her business, the new challenges that she's facing, the things that she has learned about the hospitality industry, and how about where the 24-hour pizza joints are on the Oregon coast, right? It's always like that. One thing has to happen. You have to make one decision, and it's usually a hard one, or at the very least, it's not an obvious one. And then you do make that choice, and hello, the universe starts lining things up for you. It's called synchronicity, but make no mistake about it. You have to make that decision. You have to recognize the opportunity, recognize the signs that are lining up so that you can realize your full reward, your full opportunity. All right. So you see, if you are not tuned into your inner voice, to your higher self, to the part of you that knows you got this, that you are worthy, then you might not see the opportunity. And I'm just going to say, if you want to hear another episode that talks specifically about how to cultivate and listen to your inner voice, to your intuition, go to luannniagara.com and search in podcast for episode 189, Jan L. Bowen. Jan is an expert in helping us reach for that higher self that lives in each of us. It's there. I promise you, it's there. You just have to listen very carefully, and you have to tap into it. And I'm just going to say, if you like that particular episode, you may like Jan's podcast, Life of Purpose, which you can find on iTunes. All right. So thank you to Jess for sharing that inspirational journey with us. And thank you, too, for joining me. I am really very honored that you spend your time with me. I know that we're all so busy, so I'm very grateful that you put me on when you're walking, jogging, driving, whatever it is, the things that you do, all right? And thank you so much for coming out to see me at the live events, the panels, the book signings. It's so fun, and it's exciting, and it's humbling to meet you and to hear your stories. I just love it. I really do love it a lot, all right? So go out there and be your best self. Be the best designer, the best advocate for your client, the best partner to your vendors, and build your firm with intention. Because, you know, it all starts with a decision. I hope that you make it. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.